understand what I'm saying? I don't have no problems with you loving your children. But my children go to public school. Because I pay taxes in public school, and they named for black people. And either you're going to choose to be excellent, and you're going to do better, or you're going to sit your chump ass down, and you're going to keep me in the same shit over and over, but you can't complain and say that greatness wasn't given to you. If you walk in a school named for Frederick Douglass High School, and you do not have the initiative, as a parent or the student to walk up and step up to that greatness, but you would do it at St. Pius? You would do it at St. Michael? Man, you a chump.
That's why we're
I'm not talking about you.
See, so you can sit here and say the chump shit all day long.
I'm not talking about you. I'm telling you, light skin.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So I just want to play that little portion of the Killer Mike and DJ Envy interview as part of the Breakfast Club. I had been talking about Killer Mike in a video not very long ago. It happened, he was on the Joe Rogan show, and cryptocurrency came up. And the conversation came up between Joe Rogan and Killer Mike. If you don't know who Killer Mike is a rapper and activist, very, very smart and intelligent person. He was with Bernie Sanders a great deal during the Bernie Sanders campaign. Basically this entire conversation is about public school versus private school. And, I think it gets, pretty animated, and the gentlemen, they get a bit fired up about it. And I wanted to comment on it because education is so very important, right? It's going to control and have a great impact on how you see the entire world, right? What your social and economic set of circumstances are going to be like. And the great thing about education is that education is one of the cheapest things that you can fix. Is one of the most effective things that can be fixed. For instance, it's probably costs 4 times more per year to imprison people than to give them a great education, right? And so what I'm finding in this debate is, or where a little confusion came in it for me, was that I was trying to figure out, was it really about a debate versus public school versus private school, or was it more so about talented people, smart, educated people being taken out of their environment into another demographic, another community, right, another group, and not being able to maybe keep those talents there, keep that level of education there. Because I say all of that because I have a family member who actually sent some of my relatives to this private school. It was an academy started by an African-American doctor. And they did seemingly do much better at this academy than at private school, right? Public school. So it was a private school, right? But the difference was that the private school itself, it was still in the community, right? And so to me, it just seems like this is less about public school versus private school and more about, or at least in this particular segment or part of the segment of the interview, it just seemed like it was more about that. And so I guess that's my question with it. What do you feel that the problem was about, private school, like say people in a said community, they go to a private school outside that community, or was it more about just the educational structure within public school versus private school? Now they do touch on that. They do touch on that private schools have less students in them. They have more resources, right? The teachers are paid more, so maybe they care more. Ideally, although I don't think that's necessarily true. And then you have public schools with magnet programs and a very, very good education in public schools that are similar to private schools on many levels, right? But it just seems it was more, they got more heated about, I think, that idea of the extraction, right, out of that community. And Killer Mike, I hadn't been paying a whole lot of attention to him up until recently when he got into that conversation with Joe Rogan on cryptocurrency. But I really start to admire a lot of what Killer Mike, had to say about certain sets of circumstances. And, but I didn't really like that. It did seem to me that he attacked DJ Envy in certain ways. And see, the problem with that is that communication breaks down once you insult someone or you attack someone intentionally or unintentionally. Conversation starts to break down. The debates break down, and very important topics that are being raised, they get lost in translation, right? Because now the focus is gone. It's personal now. And so things when people are talking about passionate, things that are very important like this, they're very passionate about this, especially their children, the future of their children and their communities. And so I understand that, people can get a little bit hot on the collar sometimes and kind of lose focus there. But, when topics this important, we really need to try to stay on focus, keep the conversation going. And, so I think that was a slip up on Killer Mike's part. DJ Envy comes out to me as that type of person who he wants to give his children, everything he didn't have. He's kind of on that thing like many parents, right? And he's trying to his best of his ability to do that. Now, I think the confusion is that, he's drawing that line where, this private school over here is going to do a better job because, maybe it's not an African American area, right? And I don't know. I don't know the situation with DJ Envy in the school really, but the way this conversation is going, the way he mentions these private schools that are in another location over there somewhere, over yonder, it just comes off to me like that is where a lot of the problems came in the interview. Although the public school versus private school by itself is is a very conflicting argument, right? Even with the teachers, right? Sometimes I imagine public school teachers might get offended or get upset that some people might feel the level of education they provide is inadequate, right? But again, I would, the question I'm trying to pose, I'm trying to understand through the interview is it just a matter of public school versus private school? If we're talking about certain, like Killer Mike spoke a lot about areas in Atlanta that just has these great educational centers, right? Atlanta is a great cultural mecca. It has, all this great heritage, right? And so I just felt like that's what Killer Mike was trying to hold on to in the interview. That's what he was trying to convey to DJ Envy. So, but then again, does that make it that it's a problem between private and public school, or is it more so like it's a problem with private schools out of a given area, right, of a particular culture of people that wants to hold on to their talent and grow their communities, right, and grow value in that community. And I understand that argument as well. But with that said, I just kind of want to underline what it felt like to me in the conversation, that it was more about that than private school versus public school. But interesting interview. I don't watch a lot of Breakfast Club. I seldomly get to watch it because I'm more like Joe Rogan type podcast because it's just such a large variety of people But the Breakfast Club does have great interviews that come through here, and when it does, I like to tune into them and watch them. They've had some great interviews with some great figures throughout the course of this show. And so I think this is a very important one, a very important issue. I like that. Love to hear you guys' thoughts on it. Guys, if you all like content like this, don't forget to like, subscribe. And until next time, take care.